Mr. Young Friend.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for doing this, buddy. Appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, of course, of course. I was excited to. I've been a fan of your music for a while, and it was cool that we made it work. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, how's your morning been so far? You had a busy morning, right?
Yeah, dude, I've had a crazy morning already. I mean, just like I leave for Toronto in like 2 days, and just getting ready for that. And I'm in school as well, so having
Mm,
like school shit to do all the time is just wild. So
I feel
that on
that.
top of music, on top of trying to like go all the way across the country is kind of crazy.
I feel that. So, what part of Canada are you from?
I'm from BC, so I'm over on the West Coast.
Okay, I don't know if you noticed, but I knew you were from Canada, so I had to throw the Expos hat on today.
Yes, sir. I saw that.
So, how
Real
far is
nice.
British Columbia from Toronto?
It's about a 6 hour flight. Like Toronto is like
Oh,
pretty much out on the east, like on the other side of Canada, and then I'm like right on the west side.
oh, that's super interesting. I guess like being like an ignorant American, I had no like conceptualization of like the size of Canada and like how things are spread out.
Dude, it's funny, like because I do a lot of work with people that are from the states, and like my one of my best friends, she asked me this question, and she was like, because she has zero understanding of like what Canada is like. I think she's been to Montreal once, but she asked me if we had the circus in Canada. And I thought that I still bother her about it because it's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Like she doesn't know. I'm pretty sure Cirque du Soleil like started in Montreal, but I don't think she knew that.
That would be such a depressing thing to not have. Like versus like the
Yeah,
states having it. Like I feel like the circus is
yeah,
such
dude,
like a pinnacle of like joy. Like there's so much
for
happiness in
sure,
a
man.
circus.
Yeah,
I
it's beautiful.
I've been to one circus in my life. It was a Circus LA in Vegas, and it's like I, I'd almost be curious to go to a circus that like isn't in or not LA. I mean Las Vegas. I'd almost be curious to go to a circus that isn't like in Vegas because Vegas is so like it's such like a homogenized like version of like capitalist America. It's like
Yeah,
I feel
dude.
like a real circus would be really different.
I've never been to Las Vegas, so but I am at like if I picture a circus in Vegas, I imagine it's pretty crazy. I think my one like some of my family went and saw the when they were doing like the Beatles Cirque du
Oh
Soleil.
yeah,
I think they saw that in Vegas, and I got the T-shirt, so
it's basically like you were there.
yeah, pretty much same thing.
I guess that is weird in terms of like understanding the differences between Canadian and American culture because like it's funny like they're it seems like they're decently similar nations but I guess like there probably are some discrete differences. I used to play video games with this guy from Canada. That's like one of the only other people I've like genuinely met from Canada. And I remember
Crazy.
one time he told me I don't know if this is true. Maybe he was messing with me, but like your friend. But one time he told me that Canadians have milk in bags.
Okay, so Lance and my friend Ella always bother me about this. We don't do that where I'm from. Like we have normal milk in like jugs and cartons here, and but I think like in like the prairies and like maybe out east that's a thing. But I have genuinely never seen milk in a bag.
That
I
seems
would I would be
absurd to
just
me.
as I would be just as worried if I saw that as you would be. I'd be
Milk,
I'd be super startled by that.
yeah, milk in a bag. It seems absurd to me. It seems like you know like how like our generation of like memes are just like random things that make no sense on like a picture within text that is completely
Yeah.
unrelated. That's like one of those things that you would see like milk in a bag.
It's exactly what you would see. I feel like one of us needs to go and make that like a meme right now, and
Yeah, no,
then
it could be.
put that up. I
It
feel
would
like
also
that's
work because like there's a certain section of the world that would relate to it. They're like, oh, our milk really is in bags. You know what I mean?
that's dude. There's something that really because like it just like it doesn't make sense to me. Like where do you keep it in your fridge? Like you put the like the carton in the door, or you put the jug in like the door or the shelf. You know it fits there. If you have a bag of milk, it's just like sitting there like like could you imagine putting any other bag of like a liquid in your fridge?
I can't even imagine putting a bag of liquid in my fridge. Period. Like a
Exactly.
bag of
it's
liquid's
it's
weird.
wrong. it's a
Yeah.
it's a weird thing to have like a liquid in a bag. I
Do you
remember
put
like
it?
when I was in like elementary school, kids used to come and they used to have like plastic bags filled with cereal if they like
Oh
forgot to eat
yeah,
breakfast that morning. Do you remember? Did kids ever do
I
that?
I did that,
Dude, that always scared the shit out of
but
me,
I would
dude.
never put milk in it. I would never put milk in it. That's
Dude,
weird.
these kids would have like milk and cereal in like a Ziploc bag. It was super messed up.
I guess if you lived in like the right part of Canada, you wouldn't even have to, assemble the milk bag yourself. You could
You
just go
just put
buy
the
a bag of
cereal
milk.
in.
Yeah, you just throw it in, it's ready to go. That's like the ultimate breakfast. Dude, I was always like when I was in high school,
It's dead wrong.
I was like always running behind. Like I was the kid who would like walk in with like a hot pocket or like a bagel, like just like I didn't have time to eat.
Yeah. You know, I was pretty similar in high school for sure. Like waking up like 10 minutes before I had to be at school, and then like leaving class after like 5 minutes and going to the cafeteria. And we used to like take like the foods from our cafeteria and see like what was the most absurd concoction we could come up with, like multiple items. So we were putting like cookies and breakfast sandwiches and just like all this crazy shit.
Did
It
your
was
guys'
it was
school
really
have
really
like
bad.
I also wonder like differences in like the education system between like Canada and America. So obviously, I would assume you guys take like Canadian history opposed to like U.S. history. But like, how is the U.S. like portrayed in Canadian history?
I mean, we talk like a very minuscule amount about American history, at least from what I remember in history courses. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've always had a pretty good perspective on America. I mean, I used to travel there like quite a bit when I was younger, just to like go camping and stuff. But we didn't actually talk about it too much in school. Like we would talk about like current politics more than anything. Um, and obviously like in 2016 when all of that crazy stuff was going down, that was a big subject of our conversations. We were all just like, wow, we're so lucky to live where we do. But Canada has so many issues that like don't get talked about politically and just socially. There's a lot that needs to be done, especially
Yeah,
right now. I don't know if you've heard about what's going on right now, but like
no.
crazy shit going down. Just like, oh, dude, I don't even know if I want to get into it. It's just all. There's these protests going on like across Canada right now where people are like pretty.
Oh, the
It's
vaccine thing.
the like freedom convoy,
Yeah,
like
no,
all
I did.
the all the
I did hear about
truckers.
that. Yeah, I did hear
Yeah,
about that actually. I just heard about that yesterday actually on a podcast I listened to.
yeah. So that's been going down for like a couple weeks now, and it's just that's like obviously a huge issue, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there, like defacing like statues and people showing up with like Nazi flags and all this
Oh no.
just like terrible stuff. And then I think the part that kind of bothers me is when I see people on like social media being like they're only showing like there's few people that showed up with that stuff, and I'm like, if you're letting those people show up and those people are welcome at your like protest, you're giving them a platform, period. Like that is an issue. That is like a serious issue. If you're like giving a space for these people to preach what they believe in anyways. So
Yeah, not to get too political, but that's sort of how I felt with the whole Charleston thing too. It was a similar thing. It was like I feel like like when you have people like that at a protest, obviously that is has to be some resemblance of the group think. You know what I mean?
for sure. And like I'm not too political of a guy. Like I try to keep my like politics pretty down, at least like
Hmm.
publicly, because I mean, what I'm doing in music, I think sometimes there's ties there, sometimes it connects, but I also don't want to, like, I like to encourage everybody to just like form their own opinion and do their own research. But this recently has been like too crazy not to say anything.
Yeah, I get that. I'm kind of in the same camp. I try to feel the same way. And then one thing I guess is just to speak on that from my perspective a little bit. I definitely like with what I do and I interview artists and like do live sessions and run this media company. I find that like a lot of people who do a similar thing tend to like press like artists or musicians about like their opinions and thoughts on that stuff. And it's like, dude, like 95% of the time these people are in it because they love music, generally like it's not something that they're particularly interested in talking about. So it does bother me when like interviewers or like somebody who like does media with any kind of artist will like press them, and that's even like beyond the realms of politics. It's just like other things too. Like for example, like I interview a lot of rappers and I watch a lot of other other interviewers that interview a lot of rappers, and a lot of the times they'll press them on like street politics and like gang life and stuff like that. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
that's nobody wants to talk about that stuff. You know, like
No,
it's just nobody's interested in that. I mean, people might be
it's
interested
not
in it.
about that, you know, like
Yeah.
it's for, and I mean, like they're, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like,
No, you're good.
yeah, I feel like that's not the purpose of why they're coming on the interview, is to talk about that stuff. And unless, like, I think there's, especially in the last 2 years, a lot of stuff that we as artists do need to talk about, because it's
Hmm.
important for everybody to use like whatever platform they have to share their opinion and talk about these kinds of things. But I also think there's a time and a place, and a lot of the time that it's not the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I think a good example of this is there's this baseball podcast I watch. I'm a big baseball fan, and it's called Talking Baseball. And one of the hosts is Trevor Plouffe. He's like a ex MLB player, and he was just like noticeably. Like, there was an episode they dropped yesterday, and he was just like noticeably kind of like low key, like down, like. He just didn't seem like he was in a good mood. People in like the chat were like commenting on it, and then like at the end of the episode, he pretty much just like took like a couple minutes to like talk about like his state of mind. And he said like part of the reason he was feeling so down was there was a lot of stuff in the news about a friend of his who had passed away tragically to an opioid addiction or an opioid overdose. His name was Tyler Skaggs. He was a pitcher for the Angels.
I heard
And
about that actually. Yeah.
yeah, and so there was a lot of news about that, and it was cool. He took his platform and he took like 5-6 minutes at the end of the episode and just like encourage people, like, if you have a problem with opioid addiction, if you have a problem with drug addiction, please get help, please reach out. If you have any kind of platform, I feel like those are the kind of things that you can, because think about this, if 50,000 people are watching your podcast or your show or listening to your song or whatever, if one person takes that advice and uses it to change their life, that can have an infinite amount of impact on all the people around them.
Yeah, man. I totally agree with you. Another thing I wanted to mention that's like totally off topic but sort of on topic is, you mentioned you watch a lot of like rap interviews, and you made me think of Nardwar. Do you know Nardwar is from like where I'm from?
Canada, he's from British Columbia, right?
He's from Vancouver. Like
Oh, that's
he's
right. He
from
always
here.
goes. Yeah, that's so sick. Narwhal, gigantic inspiration for me. Actually,
Yeah,
I
dude.
try to like in what I do. I try to like take like some of the stuff that he does and implement his practices into what I do. And I think what's so inspirational for me about Nardwar, I think, is like he took the format that had been done time and time and time and time again and made it into something completely new and completely unique and completely himself. And that's so inspiring. Have you ever seen his TED Talk?
I don't know if I have actually.
Yeah, his TED Talk's fascinating. That inspired me tons because the main concept of the TED Talk was like, if so he would like pretty much asked the crowd. He was like, "How do you think like I got my interview with Kurt Cobain?" And then they were just like, "Oh," like everybody was like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know." And then he was like, "I just asked." And then he was like, "How do you think I got my interview with Whitney Houston?" And he was like, "Oh, I just asked." It's like all these people he's worked with, all these people he's interviewed, he just asked. And then I think it's a great for anybody who's aspiring to do anything in media. It's a really really important thing to learn that eventually you have to put your pride aside and your ego aside and just learn that everybody's a person and you can talk to everybody like they're people. And that's what Nardwar is the best at. I think he
Dude,
humanizes
yeah.
everybody.
And even like, even media aside, like whatever you're doing,
Hmm.
just ask, like, because you're never gonna know, right? Yeah, he's spectacular, man. That guy is just on a whole another level. And now he doesn't even have to ask. Now he'll get asked by the artist if he can do it,
Yeah.
right? Like, he's created this amazing thing and developed this, like you said, this really unique way of doing it, like totally new. And also the fact that his research is like beyond anything I've ever seen. So he,
His work ethic must be insane. I can only imagine.
dude, I want to know like what his process is, like how he gets the info he gets. I think he must like, he's got to be talking to these people's family members or something like that.
I've wondered that my entire life since I started watching Nardwar. I've wondered that, and I've talked to like so many people about this, about like how does Nardwar know this stuff? How does Nardwar know this stuff? And then some people have said like, oh, he probably has like a team around him researching, but I don't know. Part of me feels like Nardwar just does it all himself. Like he strikes me as that kind of guy.
He strikes me as that kind of guy too. And like, I've never like met him personally and talked to him, but he's around the city. Like, he's here all the time. He works at like the local radio station and like
That's
does
so
a lot of
cool.
stuff for them. And like, I feel like it's just him. I feel like he probably just does all this himself because he cares so much, right? He's just like, more than anything, he's just such a like nerd fan. which growing up for me was so cool to watch because I was always that way about musicians, like growing up, and just wanted to know like so much about them and like their history and why they make the music they make. So it was like almost like an affirmation getting to watch him do it, because I was like, wow, like he's asking all of the questions that I want to know the answer to.
Yeah, that's what he's super good at too. He asks like the perfect questions. He is the pinnacle of like journalistic integrity in that regard. He's never pressing artists about stuff that people don't care about. He's never pressing artists about things that people don't want to talk about. He asks the stuff that matters. He asks the stuff that people care about, and he doesn't stray from that. And I think that's an art. Like that is a talent, man. And he's also, I think, another reason he's so inspiring to me is like he is 100% of the time authentically himself. And I feel like
Totally.
people try to act like he like plays a character, and maybe he plays into it a little bit, but I really do feel like Nardwuar is just like that like zany and out there kind of guy. Like I don't feel like it's all a character.
Dude, he totally is. He like 100% is like that, like at all times. It's
Yeah, it's pretty
incredible.
cool.
It's so
So
cool. It's inspiring, really, like more than anything else.
yeah, I would even imagine as a musician in that regard, like, the idea of just reaching out to people that, probably are difficult to reach out to. The idea of like taking these shots in the dark, that must be inspiring in that context as well.
Dude, and even like on an authenticity level, like my one of my like close friends that I work with quite a bit, like he's worked on pretty much everything that I've put out. We our like constant like driving point in all of our conversations is authenticity, and
Mm,
like a lot of the reason why we like there's music that we don't like is coming out today, or we hear something we're like, this isn't connecting with me, like that always like our conversations always circle back to like it's just not an authentic song because people are chasing it like for the wrong reasons, and they're making this song not because it's like what they wanted to do or what they were feeling in that moment when they made it. It's just like they're trying to portray something, and that's like such a weird line to toe as an artist.
mm.
um, but it's like all about being you got to write terrible songs in order to write like really good songs, right? And you're not going to write terrible songs if like every time you just try and force your song into the box, and it might be a terrible song, but like you need to have that part of the process in order to get to these like the meat and bones of the whole thing.
As you've grown as a musician and like started to put out more and more material and write more and more stuff, do you feel like it's hard for you to go back and listen to your old stuff, like compared to how it is now? Like, because how do you feel you've improved as a musician over the years?
So like I'm pretty critical of my older stuff, like I definitely, but as everybody is, like I actually really enjoy going back sometimes, like every like maybe like few months, like or maybe like once a year, I'll go back and I'll like listen to everything that came out, like and just kind of digest it and see where I'm at and remember like what like point in my life I was at. But I think like I've grown as a musician in being able to know like when I'm working on a song, like how to let the song kind of write itself and like not try and push it into a certain direction, and just like, okay, this is what this moment needs to be. Because even if I go into the studio that day feeling like, oh, I want to write like an upbeat like indie pop like banger or whatever, and I end up starting to write something that's kind of like R&B, like more slowish, I'm going to follow that R&B because I'm like, okay, clearly this is what's like coming out of me at this moment, so I just need to like
Mm.
follow that, and then the time for the other one will come. It's just like I think having trust in what you're doing and just like letting like following whichever path kind of lays itself in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess that circles back to what you were talking about being authentic. I would imagine it's so hard to get in the studio and write a song about the way you're not feeling.
It's impossible, and like and sometimes like and sometimes it's important, like if you wake up and you want to write a song and you're not feeling it, sometimes you just need to flesh that idea out and just like get it out of your system, because like not every song you write is going to be a good one. Like
Hmm.
I wish you could go through my computer and listen to all of the terrible songs that exist on my hard drive, because
Do you tend
it's
to
brutal.
do you tend to accumulate like a really big vault of unreleased songs?
Huge.
I bet
Like
there's like a lot of
yeah.
artists I'd love to just like dig through their hard drive and see everything they never, oh excuse me, they never released.
Yeah, no, I love it too, especially as like an inspiration thing for me is like
Mm.
if one day if like there's ever a day where I'm feeling like writer's block or I'm like lacking inspiration, sometimes I'll just go back to something I worked on like a year and a half ago and like
Hmm.
just like play with it and see how like maybe having that much time away from it has given me like a new perspective on how the song like should sound or
That's
how
super
it needs to
interesting.
be. So like I try not to consider like if I try and work on something and it's not finished, I try not to just let it like collect dust in my computer. I try and like every so often go back to those ideas because I started that for a reason. And like maybe I don't know why I stopped, or maybe I was like, oh, I was having a hard time writing the chorus. But maybe 6 months from when I wrote it and I go back to it, maybe I will know how to write the chorus that that song needs, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like trying to like pull from old ideas and because like I don't know, for me, like being an artist is so not linear. Like it's not like at this point I was bad and at this point I'm really good. Like it's kind of this roller coaster and like circular thing of like you go back and forth between having like moments where you're gonna have a really hard time writing any songs and you're gonna have a really hard time being confident about what you're writing, and then having all these other times where you're like, I feel so good, like I'm having so much inspiration, I can write all these great songs, and it just like comes naturally. So I think it's important to like go back to those tough moments and like try and like work out the kink there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, especially in regards to the way that I think you can't be 100% every moment. There's going to be some days you go in the studio and you're off, or you're not feeling good, or you're just not as inspired. And you have to work through those thresholds in anything, in music included, in anything to get to the great points. You know, you have to, and I think that goes back to the importance of doing your craft every single day. And if you do it every single day, some days are going to be better than others. Some days are going to suck. Some days you're
Totally.
going to be incredibly inspired, but there's going to be days that you're not inspired, but you're never going to get to the good ones if you can't go through the bad ones.
Absolutely, man. And like this past year, like the end of last year, from like the end of August until pretty much like mid like the end of January, I had like the worst writer's block I've ever experienced between those like 5-ish months. It was horrible. Like I couldn't write any
Mm.
music and I don't know what it was. Like I don't even know if I need to find a reason why, but like I feel like I'm constantly trying to figure out what I was struggling with at that time. But I was just like every time I sat down and tried to write something, I just was like, oh, like this isn't any good. Like, oh, this isn't like as good as this thing that I wrote. Oh, like just like I was so in my head about it. And then it took me like just like continuing to work through it and like you said, doing it every day. Like even if I was like depressed about it, or even if I was like
Mm.
just feeling super low about something, just still like getting up and doing it regardless is the reason why now like I finally I think, fingers crossed, got over the writer's block and I'm like writing songs that I'm really proud of again. But dude, it's so funny because do you know Ella? Do you know Ella Jane?
I know of her from you and Lance, but I've never met her.
Yeah, so she's like one of my best friends, and we talk about this all the time. Like she's always like she'll always say like what if I like wake up one day and like don't know how to write a song, and I was like,
Mm.
and that's like I've had that fear, but then recently I've kind of just had the idea that like songwriting and like making music is just another language for us. And like there are some days where I'm really great at speaking that language, and then there's going to be a lot of days where I'm not so good. But it's not something that you just like forget how to do. It's just a way to communicate, right? Like making songs and like writing lyrics is just communicating more than anything. So like I always tell her, I'm like, you're not going to wake up and forget. You might wake up one day and not be able to do it super well, but then like
Mm.
2 days from then you're going to do something amazing. So it's like it's just like within you, right?
And I think there's beauty in that. You know, there's beauty in the fact that music is the universal language. I feel like the way that I've always thought about that is like you know, this is gonna be self-diagnosed, but I've always felt like I have bad ADHD. Maybe I don't, maybe I do, whatever. I've had really hard time focusing on lots of stuff in my life, and I've always felt like the one thing that I never needed to try to focus on was music. It's the one thing that just I'm so enthralled by and so fascinated by that. There's no effort to be able to pay attention to music. It's just when a catchy riff comes on, or a good hook, or a song that I love, or I'm listening to an album front to back that I just admire. I'm just enthralled by it, and that's just always been me. And I think that's shared by so many people. I'm sure you included.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And it's like, it's always been that way. Like ever since I was super young, always like loved listening to music front to back, like picking out my favorite albums and playing them over and over and over and over. And it was never like a chore. Like I don't think at any point in my life I've been like I actually don't feel like listening to music right now. I will do it at any time, any place, and like be stoked about it.
It just, to me, it's always made everything that's going on in real life better. It just
Well, it's like
backtracks
it like amplifies everything, right? Like it's almost like
It's like a
sensory,
drug.
it's like sensory amplification. It's like if you're having an emotional moment with like one of your friends, or like maybe a romantic partner, and there's music going on, that moment's going to be like
Yeah.
exploded. But then also like maybe sometimes it won't be. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to like play devil's advocate against myself here, but no, music is the best, man. It's what makes me feel everything. Like stuff that I could not like explain with words, I can explain with music.
Yeah, oh yeah, I love that. It's a universal language. Everybody understands.
100%.
There's a song by a country artist I like named Tyler Childers. It's called "The Universal Sound," and that's like pretty much the topic of the song. It's about like how like music is able to translate feeling in a way that sometimes natural dialect and natural words just can't.
For sure. Well, yeah, if you took somebody from the other side of the world that like maybe we don't speak the same language as each other, but like if you put on a song with like a maybe a catchy groove, we'll both be able to dance to that song, and we'll both be feeling the same kind of happiness. It's like that we can communicate through that even if we couldn't with like words.
Which is
So cool.
incredible because there's
It's the
nothing
it's the
else like
coolest it's
that.
the coolest shit in the world, man.
Yeah, there's literally nothing else like that. Like, it transcends everything. It transcends race, religion, creed, differences politically, differences personally. It's just, if there's a good groove that comes on, we feel it the same.
Totally. And the only thing I would say that's similar, but it's also kind of involved with music, is dance. It's like
Mm.
it acts in the same way, like being able to dance with people that don't speak the same language, but still having that communication and connection between each other. And obviously music plays a big role in that, but I think it's like a similar thing for sure.
It like transcends what is human almost. You know what I mean?
Or even like even further, it feels like it is like the essence of being human, is like
Oh
being able
yeah,
to like connect with people regardless of like background,
yeah.
history, feelings, opinions, anything.
I guess that's a better way to put it. I guess it doesn't transcend what is human. It is like the most human thing.
It's like at the root of being human. It's like
Yeah,
there's at the root of being human, there's a song playing for sure.
yeah, literally.
What song
S-
is it? What song is playing at the root of being human? What would you say? That's a crazy question.
Well, would it be one song universally, or would it be one song for everybody else?
I feel like it's got to be one song per person. Like that
I don't
song is
know.
like their essence.
Honestly, for
I don't
me,
even know if I could answer that question. That's a
yeah,
crazy
I don't
question.
know. I guess well, it's like, I guess you could look at the question in two ways. It's like, is it your favorite song of all time, or is it like the song that like you think of the most regarding like your past, or like a gigantically influential period in your life? I think like one answer for me that kind of fits both those boxes is "No Surprises" by Radiohead. That
Oh,
song,
dude, that's such a good song.
it's my favorite song ever. It's my favorite song of all time, and I think it's because,
Crazy.
not even because like I think it's like the best written song of all time, or the most unique song of all time, or the most instrumentally complex song of all time. It's because it reminds me of a certain place in my life, a certain time in my life, and how that song backtracked that entire time in my life, and how it completely changed my perspectives on so many things.
Dude, crazy. I was also gonna pick a radio song if I had to pick. I was gonna pick House of Cards from In Rainbows.
Oh, yeah, I
Just
can see
like
that.
that one for me is like central to my being.
That's
That's
like,
yeah, it's huge.
Radiohead is a great example of a band that is so good at like taking human emotions and then like putting them into like a transmittable format through their music. Like no, like OK Computer, the entire project is like just that.
Dude, that album, no words, man. Like the first time that I listened to that, I think I was in high school the first time I listened to that, and just like changed my entire perspective on music. And like same thing when I first listened to In Rainbows and Kid A, just like
Kid A for sure.
I wasn't even making music at the time. I was just a big fan, and I remember how like I remember feeling like a significant shift in like, oh my god, music can sound like this. And like I'd listened to a lot of music at that point. I feel like even in high school, I had a pretty broad music taste, listened to like a lot of different genres and a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
artists. But I do remember listening to Radiohead and just having my entire reality flipped upside down and be like, oh my god, this is revolutionary.
Yeah, they're that kind of band for sure. They're a band that can like change your perspective on everything. Do you think I think about this a lot. Do you think there's like a band or like an artist or like an album or a song that like paints your experience through high school because like be it maybe you and your friends listen to all the time or like whatever, but cuz I think there's some songs that just like encapsulate like that period of time for me.
For me, it's like, and this is like such a like boring stereotypical answer, but it's like it signifies such a like important period in my life, and we literally listened to it like every single day, and it played such a role. But Blonde was like that
Mm.
album, because I remember the day it came out. I was like at work when it came out, and I was working at a coffee shop at the time, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like finally, it's here!" Because I've been like watching the stream of him building the stairs for like the last few
So
like week
crazy.
or whatever, and just having my mind blown. And then I saw that the album was out, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like so that night, I went on a bike ride like all the way like through my city, and I bike ride for, and I don't even know how many times I listened to that album, but I remember listening to it and like actually crying on the on the bike ride because I was just like
Whoa.
blown away by how personal this album felt. It felt like something that was like, and that's like obviously we could talk about Frank Ocean probably for hours, and
Yeah.
but like the beauty of Frank Ocean's writing to me is the way he's able to create such personal moments for the listeners through his writing and through his like through the music, like period. The whole thing is just so personal, and my friends and I, we would listen to that constantly. That was such a like significant point in our experience for sure.
I think like for me, what makes Blonde so personal, and honestly, I don't know if you might disagree with this, but I think what makes Blonde so personal for me is the way the album front to back is tied together with the interludes. I think that album has the best interludes of all time, or at least I've
So
ever heard. Like
yeah, no, I could actually get behind that. That album's got incredible interludes.
like Facebook Story is so it's such a like meaningful and dense and well written interlude, you know, but it's like it feels like a scene from a movie in the best way any interlude I ever have heard does.
Yeah, dude. That and like even like the shorter songs like that don't necessarily like they might qualify as interludes. I don't know, like but like Close to You
Yeah,
and like Good Guy. Those are like those
good guy.
songs
Yeah,
are. Good Guy is my favorite short song of all time. Like that song's nuts. The first time I heard that, I remember being like shocked and just like I like had just started to write music when Blonde came out, and I remember being so jealous. Like, and I didn't even like really write songs, but I remember being like, "Oh my god, this is the coolest shit anybody's ever done," and just being so shocked.
did it inspire a lot of your music?
Maybe, I mean, probably like subconsciously. I mean that album, I feel like whether it translates in my music or not, like is such a like like foundational part of me. It's just like in my whole being, like listening to that, and like learning how to sing for me was like 2016, 2017 when I learned how to sing. And it was just by listening to records like that and listening to
Mm.
like I'm also a huge Bon Iver fan, and
Me too,
listening to Bon
dude.
Iver and like singing along and like learning how to like sing in falsetto and like
Yeah.
actually do that was how I did it. So I feel like I'm also super connected because of that. But dude,
I
are
want to
you
see if
are
I
you gonna
can.
pull down Bunny Bear? Because I also have
Yes.
a Bunny Bear thing on my wall.
I wonder if we're gonna pull the same record out right now.
So I'm actually, hold on. I'm gonna grab it because I think you'll actually be pretty stoked about this.
I hope so.
So this isn't actually um, even a record. This is a print of Bunny Bear, done by the artist, and he actually signed it.
No way.
This is like the actual painting, like one of them that he did, and it's like signed. It's a print, but it's like that's it. That's the here. You can take a look. Isn't that crazy?
That's incredible. Where'd you
Yeah,
get that?
it was actually a birthday gift.
That's insane.
Like coolest gifts. I also have that record on vinyl, but
Yeah, I was looking for Forever Go. I can't find it though. It's deep in my cabinet. But
it's a great album. But yeah,
that's incredible.
this is like all time grail of mine. Having this right here,
That has to be like one of the best gifts of all time that anybody's ever given to anybody.
especially because they know that like of like the many albums that I love, that's like probably top three of all time.
Is
Like
that your favorite Bon Iver record?
it might be. I feel like that's the one I'm like most personally connected to, but I also
Yeah.
like I love every record so much. Like they're all like I would say like Bon Iver is a huge part of my personality. So but that one
Sure to
is a
City.
big part. Yeah.
I think that like honestly going back to like the question I asked you earlier, I feel like From Forever Ago is another album that means so much to me. Like it paints such a specific. This sounds depressing, but it paints like such a specific period of my life, you know, and it reminds me of such a certain time. And it's also like learning the history behind that album and how Justin Vernon wrote that, like in the woods in a cabin in Wisconsin when he was like at his absolute lowest. He literally recorded it with acoustic guitars and a laptop, and then he
It's
turned it into
nuts,
that.
dude. That album is insane. And
Unreal.
the coolest part is like you can hear Wisconsin in that album, and like
Oh
you can
yeah.
hear like how cold it is in the album. Like
Oh yeah.
it's so crazy the way that like he was able to take his situation and translate it to music like so beautifully. That album is ridiculous.
I think it speaks to like the nobility of turning your sadness into art, because I
Yeah,
feel like it really is a noble and an honest thing to do, because it really it takes your sadness and it might, I'm sure it would help you to put all your trauma and all these bad things that have happened to you into a song, but of course it's a difficult thing to do, but it's very noble in the sense that it can help people all over you don't even know.
yeah, dude. That's like it's true, and it's like I almost Nova's such a cool way to look at it. For me, it's like that's like instinct, you know, when you're
Hmm.
as like as a songwriter, like when you're feeling any sort of emotion that's like stronger than your baseline, like everyday feeling, you're like put it into your art, like put it into your art, whatever it is, like that's the best way, at least for me, to like understand what I'm feeling a bit better. Like, dude, that last song in that record, regarding stacks, is like the most insane song of all time. That was my top song on Spotify, like in 2021, just because
That's funny.
I
I
listened to
think
it
it
so
was in my
much.
top. It was that, and then For Emma were both in my top five for
So good,
2022 or for 2020, I
dude.
think.
And I'm sure you've seen that like live video of them in like Paris, I think it is, where they're
Yes.
like
Oh my
walking
God.
around
By
the streets, dude.
yes. I don't know if anybody else has seen that. It's by La Blocoteca.
Yes,
They're
sir.
they're super inspiring to me.
Dude,
That
they
outlet,
have the coolest videos, man. Like
so
I
sick.
when I was in high school, I used to watch their stuff like every day. I would come home and like watch that. It's
And
so
it's
good.
cool for how long they've been doing it. Like they did that when that record came out
Yeah,
12
dude.
years ago.
And they were so early to it too. Like that album didn't blow like right away. Like it took a minute
Hmm.
for it to like really pop. And it's still like so successful. And obviously like Skinny Love was an insane hit off that
Yeah.
record. Like I remember hearing that for the first time. That was crazy. I must have been like 13 years old at that time. and just getting my whole shit rocked. Like,
Yeah, it is the kind of record that if you listen to front to back, it will emotionally like murder you in the best way possible.
yeah, you're walking away from that one feeling some strong emotions. That's for sure.
I think if there was a record collectively between all the songs that I've cried to more than any album, it's that one.
Yeah, that's up there. For me, it would probably be um, "A Crow Looked at Me" by Mount Eerie. Have you ever listened to that album,
Wow, not front to back, but Mount Erie is
dude?
amazing.
Dude,
There, I see your taste fluctuating here. This is
yeah,
like,
it's like, well, I love folk music, like, and like just like
mhm.
acoustic music. I mean, that was like definitely a big part of my like experience when I was younger, was listening to like folk artists and like City and Color and like the microphones and stuff like that. But yeah, that album's really really nuts. I mean, that's another really good example. Like kind of like For Emma was like Phil Elverum taking what is like obviously one of the most tragic things that could happen to anybody and putting that into music is just like insane, totally insane.
What was the backstory of that? Like, what did he go through before that happened?
His wife died of cancer, and
That's awful.
they had like just had a kid. Like their kid was pretty like less than a year old, and that's like what the whole album is about. He like takes all of these like journal excerpts. It's like almost kind of spoken wordy at times, but he takes
Wow.
all of this stuff that he like kept a journal of while she was passing, and then after she had passed, and sort of just put them into this like collection of really like empty songs, but are like empty maybe sonically because they're but emotionally they're just like to the brim with so much feeling. Um, but that's if I mean I genuinely don't recommend that anybody listen to that because it's like so heartbreaking. And if you are like an emotionally unstable person and you get really sad
Yeah.
really easily, it might like, can I curse on this
Go
podcast?
for it.
It would
Go for it.
it's gonna fuck your whole shit up like badly. It is, yeah. It's a tough listen, but it's if you're like if you're into listening to sad kind of music and you want to listen to something that is just like beauty in its purest form, that is like huge recommendation for me. But be
I'm gonna
wary.
go after this and listen to it front to back, and then I'm gonna let you know my
Dude,
thoughts.
be wary. I apologize in advance if it makes you sad because it makes me super sad.
I have albums I just can't go back to because they also remind me of a period in time where I was really sad.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Um, are you a big speaking on that a little bit, do you like Big Thief?
Dude, I love Big Thief.
Have you listened to their new
I
record?
did, yeah. I actually just listened to it like 2 days ago for the first time. It's like
Amazing.
it is ridiculous because
Adrian Lenker's a
so
genius.
she's one of my favorite writers of all time. I
Yeah.
will always preach her as like possibly the best songwriter that has ever done it. Like she's insane. Oh my god, the album's
Oh my
so
god.
good. Like
I think it might be my favorite Big Thief album.
I think for me this is my favorite since UFOF. Like
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that like that UFOF was huge. That was like a really big moment. And then listening to this, I'm like, wow, this is insane. I'm also so glad that it's a long album. Like
Oh, I
I
know.
love that it's like over an hour. I feel like people don't do that
It's like almost 90
too
minutes.
much anymore. Like that's it's so important. Like so, it's really good.
But what's
It's so
incredible is
playful.
like,
Like
oh yeah.
it's hilarious.
But what's incredible too is like a 90-minute record can be boring so quickly, but that album, front to back, every single I've listened to like 8 times since it came out. Every single track hits, every single one in a different way too.
That's the Adrienne magic. She's just got
Yeah, she's a
this.
genius.
She is a genius, man. She's got this way of just like totally capturing the attention of her listener, like so effortlessly. And she just like the way she performs as well. It just like pulls you in so close and like gets right into your brain. You know, she's next level. Like huge inspiration. I love her so much.
Do you like did you like Bright Eyes?
I
Are you
yeah,
a big Bright
I
Eyes
do like
fan?
Bright Eyes. I'm not like crazy super fan, but I do like Bright Eyes. I listened to like quite a bit of them in high school.
See, because that's like one of my favorite bands. That's probably like my second or third favorite band of all time. And it's like thinking about like how much. Okay, I mean, I guess circling back to how you said Adrian Lenker's like probably one of the best songwriters of all time. That's how I've always felt by Conor Oberst. I feel like Conor Oberst is like the definition of a modern day Dylan if we had one.
Yeah, dude. I can totally get behind that. He's amazing, and like I love the work he did with Phoebe as well, and
Oh my god, I know.
like I'm a big Phoebe fan as well. So like,
Me
and
too.
the coolest thing is like both of them are huge Elliott Smith fans, and like I'm also
Yep,
like a huge Elliott Smith fan.
me
So
too.
like getting to see the influence that Elliott had on their music and their even just their playing is like it's incredible. Like so
Oh
cool, man.
yeah.
So cool that we get to like live during the same time period as these incredible artists.
Garden Song is about Elliott Smith.
Yeah,
I believe, right? I think that's a song of Punisher that's about him, right?
yeah. I heard something about that. I didn't hear it from like I don't think she said it, but
Oh,
or
okay,
maybe she
okay.
did. I don't know, but I have
Uh,
heard that.
Elliott Smith is. Oh my god, another like that's another record
So
front to back, either or that'll just wreck you.
yeah, that album's so good. Oh my god,
Okay, we should probably stop talking about albums now because we'll talk for like 3 more hours.
that's how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So where you grew up in Canada, was there a big music scene, like a local scene that you got into before you kind of reached out, or was that not that prevalent in Canada?
No, it's not that prevalent. I mean, like there's so I'm from Vancouver, and there's definitely like
Hmm.
a bit of a scene here. It's kind of like indie rockish kind of scene. We have a lot of like kind of folk singers and songwriters, um, and like we have some like Canadian acts that have done well in Canada. But I kind of knew when I started doing it that I didn't really want to focus on the Vancouver scene, and I wanted to like expand and work with people from anywhere in the world. So
Hmm.
the scene didn't play a huge role in like my experience with music. I mean, I play shows and I've like opened for some people here, but nothing like super big. And I've got some amazing friends that are super talented and make some amazing music as well. But I kind of knew pretty early on that I wanted to expand beyond Vancouver.
Growing up in Canada, like how was that experience like? Like, are you happy you grew up there? Is it a place you plan to stay, or would you ever move to the States?
I mean, growing up, I had a pretty normal upbringing. Like my parents are still together, uh,
Hmm.
like normal upbringing. I mean, I was a dancer growing up, so like I had a good group of friends. I had stuff to do all the time. Like nothing like super tragic happened to me growing up. So I had a pretty good upbringing, but I've known for a while now that I don't really want to stay in Vancouver. For one, it's like stupid expensive to live here. Like I think like it's
Really, I didn't
dude,
know
I
that.
think it's like next to Hong Kong, it's the least affordable city in the world.
I did not know that. I
Yeah,
had no
it's.
idea.
I mean, we can fact check that, and somebody can leave a
Uh
comment and let me know if I'm
huh.
wrong. But dude, it's crazy. Like it's so expensive to live here. Like housing is just like there's a huge housing problem happening in Vancouver. So that's like definitely one of the reasons why I wouldn't want to stay. But I also want to like I want to get out and I want to like experience the culture of like another city and like live there and experience it. Because especially like Canada's such a young country. Like there's
Hmm.
not really a ton of like super like especially musically like there's not really any like music culture or like rich music history in Canada. Like it's not it's not blooming with that like other places in the world are like especially in the states you have all these cities that are just like music like lived there and it was this huge part of the city and it's like the reason why the city flourished but
Memphis, LA, New York.
totally like we don't really have that so I would like to go and like be a part of that somewhere else and kind of like get to experience that firsthand.
That makes sense. Isn't I wonder why the housing prices in Vancouver are that bad? It's like it's a very like naturally beautiful place, right?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Like it's like one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's amazing. Um, But housing, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know why it's so crazy, but it's nuts. Like the houses are insane. Like I don't think there's any houses that you can find that are like under $1 million here.
Yeah, that's like where I live too. I live in the Bay Area, and it's like it's brutal.
Yeah,
Like it's bad. It's gonna get to the point where like I don't know. It's I guess a positive way of looking at that would be like it seems like a lot of people are moving out of California. So it'd be cool if the rest of the United States kind of like dispersed in a more even way, and we're not just like congregated in these huge cities all the time. And people can maybe like start to enjoy wildlife a little bit more, and then move to more natural places. Like, I guess that could be a good thing.
yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, no, I agree.
You said you're in school at the moment, right?
Yeah, I am
How do you like go about balancing school and music? Are you a full time student?
full time. Yeah.
Oh my god, where do you go to school?
I go to the Kwantlen Polytechnic University, and I go to the Wilson School of Design within the Kwantlen Polytechnic University. It's like small university here, and it's actually in like Richmond, which is like just outside of Vancouver. Um, and I studied product design there full time. I'm like in my second year of studying there, and to be honest, balancing it is like super hard, and
Yeah.
like it's a lot to do all the time. But I think for me an important thing is like when I'm working on school, I'm working on school, and I'm not gonna like bring anything else into that. But when I'm working on music, I'm just working on music, and like nothing else is gonna be on my mind then. And just like
Hmm.
separating and organizing my time so that like when I'm doing this thing, that's what that time is for. And like don't let yourself get distracted by all the other stuff you have to do or like all the other stuff that's going on. It's like making like dedicated time to do certain things.
Yeah, I would imagine that helps a lot. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it too. I'm a full time student as well, and you can't mix the two things. You can't try to like do what you're passionate about and then do school at the same exact time, like within the same like, couple hours or whatever. You have to like separate it out throughout your day. I think like maybe part of the reason I've been getting better at balancing it too is because California we're still like all online pretty much. Are you guys still like online?
So we were like fully in person last semester in the fall, and then when we started this semester, we were online for like maybe 3 weeks, but we're pretty much
Hmm.
like back in person full now.
Oh, okay, that's
My,
good. How was the online school experience for you?
really bad. I'm
Yeah.
like I get so distracted so easily, um, and especially like in my house and in my room, like I have so many things that I could do instead of doing schoolwork or like paying attention. And you don't have to turn your mic
Yeah.
on, and you don't have to like turn your camera on. And it's like I try to participate in those times, but sometimes it's really hard, and it's so much better for me to be in person, like, and be even just like being able to talk to my classmates and like actually be
Mm.
there and like have conversations about whatever we're doing with them is like super helpful for keeping me focused.
Yeah, I'm the same
What
way.
what are
I'm
you
like
studying?
really music industry studies.
Ooh, so cool.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, I'm I'm in school. Do I want to stay in school? We're that's TBD. We're
Yeah,
figuring that out
yeah.
right now.
I
But
feel that, man. My rule is I'm gonna do it until I like physically cannot make it work anymore. So
hmm,
if I
that's crazy. Where does that work ethic come from? Like, how have you always been that hard of a worker? Because I would imagine balancing being a full time student and doing music at the level you're doing is like really hard.
So like when like I mentioned when I was growing up, I was a dancer. So what I
Hmm.
would do in high school was I would leave every day at lunch and go and dance for like 9 hours, 5 days a week. Like I was like I was dancing so much. Like that was like my full time job
Oh my
at the time.
god.
So I think like for me when I don't know, just like separating them has always just given me so much drive. Like whenever I got to go be at dance, I was always like, this is amazing. Like I get to go do this thing that I love. Um, and it just made like all the time that I wasn't doing it worth it because whenever I was doing homework, I was always like, oh, I got so stoked to go to dance tomorrow. Like when we were like go out of town for a competition or whatever, I was like, this is so hype. Like I was just like looking forward to it all the time. But I don't know. I'm the kind of person that like I love to have a busy schedule and have like a bunch of
Mhm.
stuff to do, because it feels like whenever I sit around, I have like I feel so pointless and boring whenever I
Me
sit around.
too.
But I'm trying to get better at like giving myself time to just like sit and read for like an hour or two, or like watch a TV show and not feel like, oh, like I should be doing something else, or like whatever. Because this world that we live in
It's
now,
really hard.
and like this world that we live in now is so like, you need to have this going on and this going on and this going on. Like you need to be so busy and like pack your schedule, and like you can't like be sitting down. You need to like always be working. And it's like, no, I don't. Like I can,
Yeah, yeah.
I can chill for a little bit, please. Like let me live.
I get that. I'm really bad at that too. I tend to like get way too into the things I'm doing and then kind of forget that it's important to make time for yourself. I especially think it's important when you're trying to do like what you're doing, make music, because like if you don't make time for yourself and you're just burnt out and then it starts feeling like a chore, you're not going to be inspired to create, and that's not going to come out correct.
True, yeah. Like last semester, I was in school. Like I had so much on my plate, man. I was doing music full time. I was also working like 4 days a week at this restaurant, like near my house, and then I was in and then school full time as well. So it was like pretty much like through what feels like three full time jobs, like music,
Yeah.
school, and like working. And I was so
Mhm.
burnt out, and I think that's what I attribute like a lot of my writer's block to, is because every time that I like had like an hour or two to sit down and write music, my brain was just so overloaded and like overworked with other stuff that I couldn't actually focus on what I was doing. I was just so like burnt out that it was
Yeah.
so I'm not doing that this semester. I'm taking some more time to like chill and like live my life.
Yeah, that's an incredible amount of stuff, man. And I can personally relate to that too. That's I'm doing that in a little bit of a capacity right now. I don't work like I work like 3 4 days a week, but and my school this semester's been really light. It hasn't been very difficult. I feel like community college right now isn't the hardest thing in the
Yeah,
world, but I can 100% relate to that. And what sucks about it is like it really does turn your passions into a chore, and that's like the last thing you want to happen.
totally. It doesn't encourage any sort of like gratitude when you're doing it. Like it feels painful at times to do it, and it's exhausting. And like there were days where I would sit down to like work on something, and I was like, the last thing I want to do right now is like try and force a song out of me when I don't have the energy to do it. So
Yeah. And then if you try to force it out, it's not going to be your honest work. It's not going to, yeah, it just, you can't overload yourself. Like, I guess that's just all you can
yeah,
say
it's
about
just
it.
like you got to take that time to like live a normal life, you know, and like
Mm.
take that time to be a person, and like see friends and go out for food, and like just do normal stuff, because that's when you're gonna like that's what you're gonna have inspiration to write about, is going and like experiencing real shit and like being a human being. Because when you're so busy all the time and you're not and maybe you are being a human being when you're so busy, but like for example, at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything like locked down and we were all at home, like I lost my job at that time, and like wasn't working, I
Me
wasn't in
too.
school at the time, I was literally just at home like doing nothing. And everybody was like all the artists were like, oh my god, like all this time to write so much music, like like you can write so many songs now that you have all this time. And I was like, yeah,
About
like
what?
what am I going to write about? I'm doing
Yeah.
nothing. I do the same thing every day for like a few months there. I was like, I have nothing to write about. And then we got, and like maybe this is a hot take, but we got all these like shitty quarantine songs of people being like, I'm stuck
Oh
inside,
my God, I
like
know. Oh
locked
my
down. And I
God.
was like, yo, shut the
Shut
fuck up,
up.
dude. Like, this is so annoying. It's just so corny. It's like, we are literally in a global pandemic right now, and you're writing like a
Literally,
silly
shut
ass
the
song
fuck
about a
up.
lockdown. Like, please stop. We don't need your voice right now.
I felt the exact same way, dude. I said that the entire quarantine. I was like, all right, this is gonna sound like a shot at Guapdat. I love Guapdat.
I
Big
also love
Guapdat fan,
Guapta.
bro. But that shit, because he's from Oakland. But that shit, bro, like was not it for me. It was
It's
not it,
corny.
dude.
It's super corny. Like I don't know, something my friends and I say all the time, like kind of as a joke, but also kind of as a serious thing, is like the world doesn't need any more new music. Like we have enough music in the world right now. Like if you right now like never listen to any new music for the rest of your life, you would still have, or like you never listen to any like music that was coming out after that point, you could still never listen to all the music. It's
Yeah.
impossible. There's no way you can go and listen to every song that physically exists on like streaming platforms. You just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It would be a lifetime of, and like and like obviously a large portion of that is total shit. But like but also a large, like, well, okay, maybe not a large portion, but we get a lot of shitty music today too. Like
Uh,
because it's, and I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, because like if music weren't so accessible, like if I couldn't make music from my house, like, and like my laptop, I wouldn't have been able to start making music. Like I wouldn't
yeah.
have had the opportunity to like record and release stuff from like my room, because like back in like the older days, you had to like be playing shows. Somebody, you had to find a producer, they'd produce your record, then you'd bring the record to the label, and then the label would like be like, yeah, we'll fund like a full recording of this record, and then you'd record that record, and then you'd go on tour, and then they would sell CDs and vinyl, and it was just this like whole world. Whereas now it's like literally anybody can watch like a 2 hour tutorial on how to use Ableton, and buy Ableton and like maybe a mic from Best Buy, and then record a song with like a YouTube type beat, and then put it on
And
Spotify,
make a
and then
million
you have it
dollars.
there, and it's just like it's so accessible. And like because of that, we have a lot of music that like maybe isn't very good, because literally like your dog could do it. And then but we also like I wouldn't be able to put out music if it weren't for that, because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I got a Pirate Bay rip of Logic Pro X in like 2017, and started.
You just incriminated
It's
yourself.
I've got to say I'm not too worried about it. But okay, I actually, in full seriousness, I regret using Pirate Bay, because I'm pretty sure that's why my MacBook is so fucked up. Like, dude, when I'm on
Really?
there, like whenever I use it, it's still what I use to make music. Like whenever I'm at my house, but whenever I'm on there, I'm
Yeah.
like actively fighting off like pop-up ads, and like clicking out of like all these tabs that open.
Yeah.
It is like it's like a war zone in there, man. It is like this thing is destroyed with viruses. It is really really bad, and I can't actually. You would have to come and try and use it for you to fully understand the severity of how fucked up my laptop is. But it's really bad.
Dude, I can almost guarantee that's from pirating a bunch of
It
stuff. It
definitely
has
is
to
me
be.
trying to get like plugins when I was like 18, for
Yeah.
sure.
Do you remember like the videos people would make on YouTube? They'd be like how to crack Sony Vegas 12.
100%.
And then you'd go in and you go in and then they have like that like MediaFire like link in the description, and you go and you download the pack, and then you crack it with a code, and then it had like the weird music, like cuz it wasn't like the real version of like the
Dude,
program.
we used to do the craziest stuff. Like, I remember when this is so embarrassing. When I was like younger, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember I really wanted to have this Flow Rida song on my like iPod to show to my friends. So I think what we did was we like went to the library with like an iPod, or with a computer or something, and we did like a voice recording of the song being played off like the desktop computer's speakers. And then we had
Yeah.
that on like an MP3 file that we would all listen to and be like, "Wow, this is so sick! We have this Flow Rider song," because we didn't have like iTunes or whatever. I mean, iTunes existed, but we didn't like buy songs on iTunes at the time.
Did you have the iPods growing up, like the iPod
Yeah.
Nano and
Oh
the little
yeah. I
iPod?
had I had the Nano for sure, the like kind of like skinny one, and then I also had
Yeah,
like the little shuffle
little
box
one.
one. That one was
Yeah,
tight.
I have like lots of discrete. When I was a kid, I don't know why, but like I was super into Kobe Calais, and I remember like growing up. This is such an do you have memories that you're like I don't know why I remember this so
All the
well, but you
time.
do.
All the time.
Like yeah, one of them for me is like just sitting on my living room floor with my little iPod Shuffle and just listening to the song "Bubbly" by Kobe
Dude, that's a
Calais, and
great
it's like
song,
it's
man.
like it
That's
is a good
that's a
song, but it's like
classic.
I don't know why that's the one that I just remember. But those things were ancient at this point, like the little
Dude,
shuffles.
I have this one memory that is like I don't think I'll ever forget this. I was camping with my family, and I had saved up enough money to go buy like a Sony Walkman. It was like their version of the iPod Nano, and I was
Yeah.
so hyped. Like I was like, I'm gonna go buy this Walkman. I'm gonna listen to so much music. Like so stoked. So we got it from the store, and I like put it in my pocket, and then we like went back to the campsite, and like we are like, oh, like let's go swimming, and we were like go down to the beach. I like just wade out in the water. I'm like maybe chest deep, and I like my jaw drops, and I'm like, oh my god, the Walkman's in my pocket, and I pull
Oh
it out, and I was like,
no.
no. So I like ran back to the campsite, was like, Walkman, like I ruined it, and I hadn't even like used it yet, hadn't charged it to turn it on, like no songs. I was like devastated, and then I think we like put it in some rice or something, and it still works to this day. Like I gave it to my dad, and he actually uses it sometimes. But it actually works still, which is crazy. Shout out to Sony for making it like an
Shout out
incredible
Sony.
product. Like
I feel like that was like the pinnacle of like mechanical engineering back in the day because shit just didn't
yeah,
break.
dude.
Like for whatever reason, old stuff just
I
doesn't
know. Like
break.
everything now is so like fragile and like,
You can like breathe on your iPhone too hard and it'll
dude,
break.
it's true, man. These things are fucked because like this is like so much more expensive to make than like that like Sony Walkman was, and this will break in like so
So
much
much
faster.
easier.
It's insane.
Do you like do you remember like growing up, did you I don't know if you ever did this, but did you ever like pirate or you would like I remember when I first got not an iPhone but an iPod
Yeah,
Touch. You could listen to music on the iPod Touch, but it was like it was like before maybe it wasn't before streaming, but it was before I was aware of streaming. So I was still using iTunes and there were like ways you could like go on like these weird websites, like these weird foreign
hmm,
websites and just download like pretty much cracked versions of songs. And I
yeah.
remember doing that so much when I
I
was a
remember
kid.
doing that, and I remember doing YouTube to MP3 like all the
Oh my, I
time.
still do it to
Like
MP3.
that was huge
Yeah.
back in like elementary school, and even in high school I did it too. Was I was like create these massive playlists of like YouTube to MP3 songs, and then put them on my iPhone or like my iPod because I didn't want to buy them through iTunes. I don't think I got like streaming until maybe like grade like 10. I don't really remember, to be
Hmm.
honest. Like I would have to go and like I actually don't even know if I could find out.
Yeah, I don't even
Probably
know when I
rate
did it
like
either.
grade 9 or 10 maybe. I didn't get Spotify
Uh-huh.
until like graduated high school.
What'd you use
Just
before?
Apple Music.
That's better. I'm really considering stopping
It's
using Spotify because the way they treat artists is
it's
so
it's
garbage, and
it's
I feel like
pretty
it's
trash.
yeah.
It's
It was. I was looking at this chart talking about like the lowest payout for all the streaming services. Spotify was literally the most users at the very bottom. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to switch the title.
it's crazy, man. Like they really don't pay out the artists. The only thing that kind of gets me is like that's where everybody is listening to their music. Like it's like
Yeah.
the biggest platform that exists in streaming, and like yeah, it's pretty wild.
And there's like no excuse for them not to. There's literally no argument that they
There
couldn't.
isn't. There totally isn't.
Like how can you explain to me that Title pays out like triple the amount you do, and they have like 1/80th of your user base? That makes no sense
It
to me.
doesn't make any sense. And like the thing is too, like Spotify's reached this point where it's like it's the thing to use. Like
Yeah.
everybody uses it, and it's just like like such a normal thing now to have Spotify. Whereas like people don't like people haven't used Tidal, so they don't know how the interface works. They don't know like because obviously like people love Spotify because of the way like the interface, like the way that it looks, how you can use it, how it stores your music, and how it recommends you new music, which is like that was what drew me in. Was I was like, oh my god, like I can find so much new music because of all these playlists. So I'm gonna get Spotify. And like we don't know enough about Tidal because like not enough people have used it, or it's like not a common practice to use it. So that we're like, how do we know if it's gonna give me the same thing? What if I'm gonna not get any new music because I download Tidal? You know, like it's people aren't used to it. So I
That's the thing. People aren't used to it, but it does the exact same thing. I feel like people just don't know.
exactly. It's just like people don't know, and they really like. sticking with what they do know.
I guess for artists too, like I know a lot of artists that have like their music's grown exponentially because they've gotten in the Spotify algorithm, and which is such a weird thing. Like I feel like if you're not in the circle, if you're not like very into music and very like just interested in the way the industry and then the everything works, you wouldn't know that like there really is like a Spotify algorithm that pushes music to Discover Weeklies. It pushes music to like your curated playlists. Like if you can get in that algorithm, you're gonna get way more streams, and it shows like how streaming has changed music. It's like a different way of marketing too. And I mean that's only with the algorithm. You can talk about a whole different thing when you get into playlisting and how important it is to try to get on Spotify playlists. You know, like how crucial it is to get on like like Lorem or Rap Caviar or like Pollen or any of those playlists. Like how much that helps your music.
Yeah, people don't really think about like, I guess like the average listener does not think about like, how did this music get into my Discover Weekly? They're probably just like, oh, it was an algorithm and they're just recommending me stuff that I liked, which is like true to an extent, but there's so much that goes into it for the artist that like gets you to that point. And like same with the playlist, they're not really thinking like, oh, look, like I don't know, like the Kid Leroy just got a new song added to this playlist. Like they're not like focusing on those little details because they don't really care. They're just like, oh, new Kid Leroy song, sick.
Yeah.
Like that's, they just get it right away and they don't question like all of these like underlying things. But like maybe they don't have to. It's maybe that's something for the
Yeah.
industry and the artists to worry about. But it's definitely like that. I mean, that's the reason like I have as many listeners as I do and like as many streams as I do is because like Spotify has been super favorable to me and like give me some awesome opportunities through like their playlist and the algorithm.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think the average music listener like thinks about, but I don't think they have to. Like you said, like I don't think it's that important, but it definitely is like one avenue of Spotify that people don't really consider.
Totally.
Did you? So you said you got pretty big playlisted like in the early days or what?
In the early days, no. Like, I mean, I have kind of like a weird like music career trajectory because like when I started putting out music, I put out like a couple songs, like I put out like two singles that did like nothing, and then I joined like this like group for a little bit, and we released some stuff, and it didn't really do anything either. And then I started putting out more solo music, and then that was like it took like a year or like a year and a half for that to like start gaining any traction, and then from then, like as soon as it got that like first hit of traction, it was just like just kind of went off.
What was like the big like moment where you felt like you really hit a turning point?
The first time I got in an editorial playlist was the big moment for sure. It was like it
Okay.
was I think it was March of 2020. Yeah, it was March of 2020 when my song Loverboy got put into um, Fresh Finds.
Hmm.
And I remember that day too. I was working like an office job at that point. Like I was working a desk job at this auto body shop, and I had a friend there who was one of the painters, and he was like super into my music. And I remember coming to him and be like, "Dude, holy shit! Like my song just got put into this playlist," and he was like, "No way!" Like he was so excited, and he had no
That's
idea what it
awesome.
meant too. But that was
Yeah.
definitely a big point because I think like when you get yourself in front of those in front of those people, the people that are curating those playlists, um, that's a huge key to like getting your music pushed forward and like building that relationship and putting yourself in the right position.
Especially in the pop world.
It's everything in the pop world, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like arguably one of the most important parts of marketing your music in the pop sphere is like getting it on these editorials because it feels like a lot of the pop listeners also tend to gravitate towards those editorials
Yeah,
more.
totally. I mean, like they're always looking in like in the indie pop playlist and like in the Lorem playlist and like all this other stuff, right? It's such a funny culture of music, the Spotify culture. It's
You
so
say
deep.
that, uh huh. I know you call yourself the self-proclaimed indie pop cowboy, but like looking back in your discography and looking at some of your older stuff, like your EP specifically, to me like a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me a lot of the genre that project gravitated towards wasn't very similar to the stuff you've been making more recently. Do you ever have trouble with being kind of boxed in on a genre level as an artist? Do you feel like people want you to make one thing, or do you feel like you're okay making one thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like definitely the older stuff sounds like nothing like the stuff that's coming out now, and the stuff that's coming out now is sounds nothing like the stuff that's going to be out in like a year. Um,
Oh well.
so personally, I find like maybe sometimes I kind of like fear that like people want me to make the because like obviously like the song that did super well is Pinch Me, and
Hmm.
I feel like sometimes people like want me to do more Pinch Me, um, which is cool. Like I love that style of music, and I have a lot of music that sounds like that, like or in a similar vein. But I also like sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to make songs that always sound like that. Like I consider my taste to be pretty like I listen to a lot of different music and a lot of different genres. So I feel like I kind of want like the music's all coming from me. So even if it's like experimenting with a different genre, it's still gonna have that element of me in it. So it's not gonna sound unless I went on and made like experimental noise music with no lyrics
Hmm.
and no vocals, then like maybe you wouldn't be able to notice that it was made by me. But like if I write an indie pop song and then I write like an indie R&B song and then I write like maybe a bit more like punky kind of song, like they're still all going to sound like kind of similar because it's like
Yeah.
I mean hopefully it still has that like that piece of me in it all, you know.
And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about authenticity. Like you're still writing about like your experiences and your truth and everything. It might just sound a little different sonically or instrumentally, but it's still you. It's a piece of you.
100%.
When you like change the stuff up on after you kind of went from like your EP to your more recent stuff that is very different in a genre lens, was there a catalyst for that change? Like did you just want to try something new, or did you just grow as an artist? Like was there a reason you wanted to change
Just
that up?
growing as an artist, like um, wanting to make music that was bigger than that because a lot of those like EP songs are like I mean I love those songs. I'm super attached to those songs because it was like such a like pivotal point in my life to be releasing music. Um, but I mean the difference is I wanted to make music that grew throughout the course of the song and like music that changed over the course of the song and wasn't kind of like this same thing all the way through. And I also at that point, and I mean I still consider myself to be like getting my bearings, but at that point I was like so new to making that kind of like poppy kind of indie style of music. So that was just like my first shot as like I'm pretty sure that those like five songs, I think there was maybe seven demos that were like going to be that EP, and two of them we cut. But that was like my first shot. Those were like the first five indie pop songs I made. And then we're like, let's put it
Yeah.
out as an EP, like as so so yeah, that was kind of the first stab, and then after that, I was like, oh my god, I can do so much in this like range, and just started like experimenting and making a bunch of stuff. Also, like grew as an artist, grew as a writer, grew as an instrumentalist, like grew my team and the people that I work with. So
A lot of that stuff on the EP even sounded a bit more like hip hop influence to me. Was
huge hip hop influence for sure.
was the like in the early days when you first started writing, was that stuff more hip hop slanted?
100%, hundred
Mm.
percent, it was like I think the first music that I really started making was hip hop music, and then I kind of was like, you know what, this is not like my place to be making this kind of music. Like it's not really a part of my culture. It's not really part of my history at all. I have such a crazy appreciation for hip hop music. Like I grew up listening to hip hop music, and it's been a really big part of my life. Um, and I will always be influenced by it. But I was like, this isn't the kind of music that I need to be making. I
Hmm.
need to take that influence and implement it into something that feels more natural for me.
That makes sense. When you kind of transitioned from rapping a bit more to singing, did singing feel more natural on the mic? Was that like an easier thing to get used to getting comfortable doing?
It was pretty tough to get comfortable doing, to be
Mm.
honest. Like I think like um, it wasn't actually until like pretty recently, like within the last year, that I've started to like really get comfortable singing like while recording or like at shows as well. Um, it's taken a lot of time for me to get comfortable with my voice and like find the way that felt right for me to be singing.
That makes sense. I guess like that also comes with experimenting and with different ranges and different ways you can like orient your voice. I would imagine like because I guess there's two ways you could go about it really. It's like you can sing in like your very natural tone, whatever just comes out, you can sing like that, or I guess you could like manipulate your voice in some regard to make your voice sound like a bit different than your talking voice in regards to your singing voice.
Totally.
um when you were coming up and you were like trying to get your music to pop, so it seems like you were at it for a while, right, before you got some traction.
Yeah, it was a while. Like I think 2017 was when I mean like even then like that felt like such a like incubation period for me as an artist. Like I was putting out music, but I was doing like zero marketing. Like I knew nothing about like getting into any algorithm. I knew nothing about streaming or anything like that. So I would like for me, I would consider the EP to be like when I started doing it, and then it
Hmm.
was a while after that that I started to get traction. It was like almost a year.
Was there ever a period in that time frame where like it got hard and you weren't seeing the results you wanted, that you considered stopping, or what motivated you to keep going?
Um, I just really like to do it.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
it's like I started making music and like writing music because my friends did it. Like and they don't even do it the same way that I do. Like my three best friends from high school, like two of them like played in bands and are just insanely talented musicians, and then one of them grew up like singing in a choir.
Hmm.
And whenever we were together, they would always be like jamming and just kind of like playing covers and like making songs like stupid shit. But that was how I got into it. Was I just kind of started to learn and join in, and they taught me some stuff, and then I found out that I really had a love for it. Um, so I don't know. Like I try not to focus on like what like even if nobody was listening, I would still be making these songs and doing it just because it's like there's no better feeling than having that finished product and being like, yeah, this is exactly what it needed to be. That's like the most rewarding thing than any like number of streams you could get. And like obviously I care about streams and it's cool to get streams and whatever, and like have it's cool to have people listen and have like people that care. But for me, as long as like I really love it, then I'm like then I'm gonna keep doing it.
I feel like that's the most important thing too. It's like when you can make something and then listen to it back in your car and be like, God, I love this. I would listen to
Yeah.
this.
Well, that's kind of the whole point. Like,
Hmm.
the reason I make music is because the music that I want to hear, like, sometimes doesn't exist, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's got to be me that makes it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do it yourself.
For sure, man.
That's why when people like, I don't know, I've heard people like listening to their own songs before, and then people would like laugh at it or scoff at it or make it seem like it's like an arrogant thing. But it's like, dude, if you're not making the stuff that you love, if you don't love the stuff that you're making, you're not making the right stuff.
Yeah, exactly, man. You got to be excited about it.
Yeah. Just circling back a little bit, how did you? So it seems like your role in dance, like, put like an entire. Well, I just lowered my chair. It seems like your role in dance like played like a huge role in your musical upbringing and your artistic upbringing. How did you first get involved with that, and what kind of dance did you do?
So I first got involved in it because my sisters did it. I have two
Hmm.
sisters, and they both danced like from a pretty young age, and they were like my older sister specifically was like, "Hey, I heard there's a like a boys class at the studio. You should go and you should try it and just like see if you like it." And like from the first day I went, I like loved it immediately because I was such an energetic, like hyper kid growing up. I was like not chill at all as a kid. So having an outlet where I could like get out all of my energy was so good. And then like as far as music plays, like I've also always been so in love and obsessed with music. So like being able to go and listen to music for like a bunch of hours every day was like so sick. And it definitely helped me understand like what music was like, and it grew my taste for sure.
It feels like it tied in perfectly to what you needed and who you were.
100%. It was like I'm so thankful that I did that, and especially like on a performing level, like because I've been
Yeah.
performing since I was so young, and like performing dance is obviously like quite different than performing music, but when there's a lot of similarities, like a big part of music and like performing music is being comfortable on stage and like feeling
Mm.
comfortable in front of like, oh my god, there's like a shit ton of people here, and now I have to do this thing that they paid to come see. Like there's this expectation, and it's this big deal. But because I've been doing it for so long, I'm just like, I feel so comfortable being on stage in front of people, and it's like this is the place where I need to be in this moment, and this is the only place that I need to be.
It's a job. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess somebody pays to see you. That's your job. You know, to give them what they paid for. I
For sure, man.
interviewed a hip hop group called Me Plus Two Crew. Shout out Me Plus Two Crew. They're from out here in the Bay, and they grew up as dancers. And
Crazy.
yeah, when they started playing gigs, they said the exact same thing. They told me like, yeah, like it's weird. Like they're like, yeah, we feel like we should be nervous, but you know, like growing up and like playing for people, just like your entire or you know dancing for people your entire life gave them so much confidence, and it's like when you go up on stage it's just like
Totally.
what you do.
It's like second nature. You get up on stage and you perform.
Hmm.
It's like
When did you first start performing music? Like when was your first show?
my first like show, like proper show, was probably, I think it was 20, maybe 2018, probably 2018. But there was actually this one time that this is so embarrassing, dude. I one of so there's these people that knew I was making music, and like we were kind of friends, and they were like, "Hey, we're having this like fundraiser. Do you want to come like play guitar and sing a few of your songs at it for the fundraiser?" And I was like, I don't think I'd done it in front of anybody at that point. Um, and I was like really bad at playing the guitar and really bad at singing at this point. Like it was so early. But I went and I played like three songs, and it was tragic. Like it was so
Oh.
embarrassing, and it was really bad. Like it was really really bad, and it was like not only was it in front of like all, it was in front of all these people that I knew like
Oh.
like closely, and it was so embarrassing. And I remember like packing my stuff into my car and like leaving that and being like, the next show I play is going to be fucking amazing. It has to be. Like
Mm.
like I left that, like I didn't even, I felt bad while I was doing it, but as soon as I left, I was like, I need to play another show and it has to be good, or else like I'm never going to live this down.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because I feel like those failures when you're coming up and when you're growing are truly what make the difference. You have to fail. You have to fail 1,000 times before you understand exactly what you have to do right. Because how are you going to know what you need to get better at if you never can be bad at it?
100%, man.
And it's like, and I mean, those moments are hard. You know, those moments are hard. But the thing is, the further you persevere, and the more you're willing to roll with those punches and kind of get hit 1,000 times, it's kind of like the Muhammad Ali quote. It's not about how hard you can hit; it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
100%, dude.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's a great quote.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes. I love. There's so many like I'm such a nerd for quotes. Like
Cool.
I'm like one of those guys who like has like those like suburban white mom like quotes that are like put on the wall. Like
Dude,
I
yeah,
love
that's
all
cool.
those. Yeah,
That's cool, man. That's really cool.
I wanted to ask you about "Pinch Me" a little bit, and like kind
Sure.
of the motivation behind that song and the lyrics. Because when I listen to it, I love that song. I've been a fan of it for a good amount of time now. And when I first listened to it, I think the lyrics related. I felt that they felt very relatable to me because correct me if I'm wrong, but what I took from the song was like it almost felt like you were getting more successful at that period and things were growing, you were getting traction, and you almost couldn't believe it. But it was like there were people around you, and like you were in a space where like people were trying to tell you like slow down, like take it easy. But it sounded like you just worked so hard that like you just want to keep going full forward with it and take advantage of every opportunity. That was what I got from it, and I felt really relatable. I mean, that felt very relatable to me. But I'd love to hear it in your words.
Dude, yeah, you're pretty spot on with it, man. That's a really good interpretation. It's pretty much like being at a point where a lot of things in your life are changing, and you feel like you're going through a very significant period of growth, but people still, because I don't know, people have this habit of wanting to like wanting you to always be the person that you've always been, and
Yeah.
they don't really want to see you change and grow, because a lot of people are really afraid of that. And I was feeling a lot of that in my life. Like, people always wanted to see me as like the person that I had been and was, like, growing up, and I didn't want that, and it was really difficult to have to, like, a break off some of those friendships and be like, you know what, it's better for me to just like grow and move on and like learn from this experience. But also, I was like pretty bummed about it because a lot of these people I've known for a long time, and like, you don't want to be the asshole that like cuts people off. But if people are holding you back from like being yourself and doing what you want to do, like, yeah, that for me is the heart of the song. Is like people wanting to box you in and like wanting to pigeonhole you and let you be this one thing, when it's like, no, like, grow, like, do what you want to do, and don't let the people in your life hold you back because of that.
That's real, and it's hard to balance that world of. It's really easy to get guilty when you feel like you're progressing, and people, not that they don't want you to progress, but that they want you to be the same person you are when you're growing. And it
Yeah,
would be
man.
very disingenuous to remain the same person your entire life just because other people want you to be that.
100%, dude. It's unfair to yourself to do that because people want you to.
Yeah, it's very unfair, and it's like I said, like it's hard to cut those people off. You know, sometimes they're very personal to you. Sometimes they're very like real and long lasting relationships, but you just have to put yourself first. That was something that was really hard for me to learn, to put myself first, because
Yeah,
I tend to prioritize other people's feelings more than my own, and it's a hard thing to learn. But the quicker you can learn to put yourself first, the more you'll grow as a person.
dude, I completely agree with you. It's definitely not an easy thing to do, but putting yourself and what you need to do for your life is like the most important thing. And obviously, like, don't be a dick about it, and
Yeah,
like show love to the people that have shown love to you. But like, dude, it's your life. You have one thing to do, and that's like, be yourself. And if anybody's trying to hold you back from that, then like, fuck that. No way.
mm. They also probably don't have your best interests at heart if they're trying to hold you back from that.
A lot of the time it's just selfish, right? Like, they just start doing it because they are either like jealous of watching you grow and succeed, or they just don't want things to change and they want you to like continue to be that, to continue to play that role in your life that you've, or that role in their life that you've always played.
Yeah, it is selfish. It's a hard thing to balance to reconcile with. But yeah, the song really like encapsulated that for me in a way that most songs don't. And I was like, it's an interesting subject matter. It's not one I had like heard like discussed before. And I found it very relatable.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. Of course. Did you expect that song to be the big turning point that it was for you and kind of blow up the way it did?
No,
Really?
no, dude, I didn't think it was going to do that at all. Like, I was actually super nervous to put that one out because
Oh wow.
like just the way it sounded, like, for me, was a bit of a departure from the stuff that I had previously put out. Like, I think the thing that came out just before that was Therapy, and then before Therapy there was a huge break, and it was Arizona. Like, it was
Mm.
Arizona to Therapy to Pinch Me, and I was really scared. But my manager was like, "No, you need to put this out. Like, this is something that people really need to hear. Trust me." And I was like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like the one. And he was like, no, dude, fucking trust me, like, it's gonna be worth it. And then sure enough, he was right, and I am super grateful that he pushed me to do it. But I really was like super nervous for that song to come out.
That's interesting to me. It's never the one that you think it is. Like it's never the
No,
one.
it never is.
Hmm.
It never is. It's so funny. It's so unpredictable. You can
Yeah.
never ever predict how anything's going to perform.
Like
You
how
know,
could you? How could you predict how something's gonna make somebody else feel?
you can't, man. It's, you just have to take that risk, and like, if you feel like something is super authentic to you and maybe you're nervous about putting that out into the world, you probably should,
Yeah.
because there's a pretty big chance that a lot of people are going to relate to that feeling.
I think about that in regards to like artists who are pushing boundaries, even though some people are, you know, criticizing them for it. One artist I think about a lot is Playboy Cardi, because I think,
Dude, I love Playboy Cardi.
yeah, I think Cardi is doing something right now that is just wildly progressive, wildly influential. It feels like what Cardi's doing right now is what like Kanye did in like the Yeezus era. You know, like where he just completely pushing boundaries, and that I think is so valuable to art because it change any artistic leap into the future is fabricated on the idea that somebody did something that they thought would sound horrible to everybody else, but it worked and it changed something and it influenced
Dude,
stuff.
and that was the Yeezus thing, right? Like
Yeah.
when Yeezus first came out, there was a pretty small group of people. I mean, maybe it wasn't small, but they were like people. A lot of people thought that album was really bad,
Yeah,
and they thought it was like really tough to listen to. I remember hearing that when it came out, but now it's regarded as like huge, having a huge influence on the way that music has like shaped. And I totally agree with what Cardi's doing. It's like there's a lot of people right now that are like, "What is this? This is." But sometimes it's just like because it's unfamiliar and people are afraid of that.
Entirely, they're totally afraid of it. I think like all three of Cardi's albums have been like things that were not well received when they came out, but all I've already been incredibly influential. I think about like self-titled in terms of like the weird eclectic like baby voice stuff, or not baby voice stuff, that was Dilit, but the weird eclectic like extremely mumbly stuff he was doing with the weird ad-libs that went on to be influential in terms of ad-libs. Dilit was wildly influential for both the baby voice reason, which so many people copied, and then also the electronic production in hip-hop, which went on to be incredibly influential. Now if you look at guys like Yeet or like Uno the Activist or like guys in that lane that electronically infused hip-hop, and then now with Dilit now with A Whole Lot of Red, he's literally created a punk aesthetic in hip-hop that like wasn't really there before.
It's so wild, man, to see, and I'm so curious about what it's going to look like in like a year from now, and if like how I wonder what we're going to see as a result of that album.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because it's already been a year, so like I can't imagine what it's going to be like in a year, like what the landscape of hip hop is going to look like in a year.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think about that in regards to a lot of different genres, actually. Like, how will this look in a year? Because hip hop, like 4 years ago from now, is like unrecognizable to where it is now.
Yeah, 100%. It's a totally different world. Like if you think about like the stuff that was coming out in like 2016 versus the stuff that's coming out now, it's like what I listened to in 2016, maybe it's cool for people that heard it in 2016, but a lot of the people that listen to it now are going to be like, no, I don't really want to listen to that. Like that's not really what I'm into.
Yeah, it's fascinating the way that works. Going into the rest of 2022 and like just the foreseeable future, what are some of your like direct musical goals for the next year or two?
Dude, I want to tour. Tour is like I whether it's like opening for someone or just playing a few like headline shows, I really, really would like to go and just like get out and play some cities that I haven't been to before or haven't like played before. That's like top of my list for sure. I also want to put out another project. I think it's time. I mean, the last one was 2019, so I think it's been 3 years. I think maybe it's time for me to put out another project. We've like almost put out like 2 projects, but we've like stopped ourselves because we're like, no, we can do better. Like, so, but we're working on it. I'm working on the project right now, so it's in the works. I want to get that out maybe this year.
Those moments and those thresholds where you almost put stuff out and then you don't, that's the stuff that ends up creating the best bodies of work. You know what I mean?
100%. And it's like looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm super glad that didn't come out when we thought it did.
Yeah, dude. When you tour, you got to come to San Francisco or Oakland. I'd love to see you.
Of course, dude. You know I will.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Hey, dude, I thank you so much for doing this interview. I loved this conversation. I thought it went a lot of cool different directions. It was a lot of fun.
Dude, you're a total pleasure to talk to, man. You're really great at what you do.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. Tell everybody where to find your music, where they can stream your stuff.
Dude, if you look up Young Friend pretty much anywhere, you'll find me. I'm on every platform, and I'm not super hard to find.
Hell yeah! All right, Drew. Thank you so much.
But the new music's coming. The new music is coming. I promise. I'm just trying to make it really good.
New music on the way. New music on the way.
Okay, bro.